My brothers and sisters, what is going on, everybody? This is Steel Sermon in the house, Monday afternoon with another video. Just sitting down here and giving my general thoughts about the offseason and what the Pittsburgh Steelers should do for 2023 in the offseason as far as improving the team goes and as far as this rebuild goes as well. And do me a favor. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. Links are posted in the box down below. And I welcome all my new subscribers that join the channel. If you are into the Pirates and the Penguins as well, I will be covering those two teams heavily in the offseason as well. So be tuned for that. But in this video, I am talking about the offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, giving my general thoughts on the preview for it, because now the offseason for us is officially here, and this is my Victory Monday. As I should have said in the beginning, this is my Victory Monday. We get the job done 28-14 over the Browns yesterday, but we missed the playoffs because the Dolphins knocked off the Jets, and our scenario was that we needed to win and we needed losses from New England and Miami to make it. The Bills did their job. They beat the Patriots, but the Dolphins ended up beating the Jets. So there's that. But down in this video, I'm talking about my general offseason thoughts, my preview for it, and some Steelers who I think should stay and some Steelers who I think should leave. 5 specifically. 5 Steelers who I think should stay, 5 Steelers who I think need to go. So, without further ado, I'm just going to get started, and I'm going to start with the offense. So, looking at the quarterbacks, Kenny Pickett, obviously, he is the franchise quarterback of this team going forward, and I think that he has the QB1 position locked down going into 2023. No denying that, and it's just time to build around this guy. He has shown a lot of glimpses from this season that he is more than capable of evolving into one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You see it with his mechanics, you see it with his reads, you see it with his decision-making, and all this with one of the worst offensive coordinators in the league and one of the worst offensive lines in the league and a group of underdeveloped and young receivers. So, time to build around him, and I think it's very beneficial for us that with us having not one, but 2 day one draft picks, we have the 17th and 32nd overall pick in the first round of the draft. So there's that. It's in our best interest. If Jordan Addison's still available at 17, take him right there and then worry about a left tackle later at 32. So that's just my personal opinion. I don't know what Omar Khan has in mind, but if you want my personal opinion, that's what we should do with 17 and 32. As far as the depth goes, Mason Rudolph, I don't anticipate him staying. And Mitch Trubisky is just here to finish up his contract with us, and he should be at around $5 million for this year. So basically, I expect the Steelers to bring in more of a veteran, maybe not this year, but next year when Mitch Trubisky is gone, and then use a late-round pick for depth. So that's really what I think the state of the quarterbacks goes for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As for running backs, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, enough said about that. Running back by committee type of offense. They will be in the backfield for 2023. I anticipate it 100%. I'll get to Derek Watt later in this video, and as far as Connor Hayward goes, can't really have a strong opinion of him because he is a fullback tight end hybrid. But, with Najee and Jalen, they're both still in their rookie contracts, and literally there's just no reason to not have them as the 2 main backs at this point. Any other running back in the league would probably be special teams as far as, well, not in the league, but any other running back on this team would be special teams with us. And that's just really what I think as far as the running backs goes. No need to find one in the draft, no need to find depth in the draft. Those are your 2 running backs going forward. Wide receivers. This is a heavy topic. So, basically, we have it locked down as far as who our number 1 and number 2 are going to be, but we still need some slabs of cement with it. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens are both a lock. Unfortunately, with Deontay Johnson, we're stuck with his contract. There's not much that we can do with it. He had a very disappointing season this year, to say the least, with no touchdown receptions. But maybe now that Kenny Pickett is going to develop more, we can give him another chance. But I just expect better from a guy who is making $18 million to be our number one receiver. George Pickens had a real good rookie season with us. I think him and Deontay are going to fight to see who is the true number one receiver. If you ask me, I think Pickens is the better receiver between the two, but only time will tell right there. Wide receiver, our third receiver is going to be an interesting battle. Calvin Austin, obviously, I've been saying week in and week out with him. He's been injured all season, so he had to miss the season. But expect him to come back healthy, and he is definitely going to make a name for himself. He has great speed. He has a great deep threat ability, and I expect Calvin Austin to really compete with that third receiver position. Something that we haven't really seen since either Mike Wallace or Martavis Bryant, in my opinion, with his deep threat ability and his speed. I expect Steve Sims to still be on the team. I expect him to keep getting a push as far as competing with the third receiver goes. And with me personally, unless we use one of our draft picks on another wide receiver, and, knowing Mike Tomlin, he loves his wide receivers. That's just what Mike Tomlin does every single draft. He eyes at least one receiver every single draft. So I expect that to happen. That's just going to be it as far as the receivers go. It's just going to be big competition for playing time. As far as tight ends go, good news with Pat Freiermuth. He suffered an injury yesterday, but it's nothing serious. It's a sprain. He does not need surgery for it, so expect him to be back for 2023. And again, still under a rookie contract. I think he is our number one tight end going forward. Connor Hayward, as I mentioned, tight end, fullback hybrid. I expect him to be here as well, and he stepped up over the last month. Stepped up yesterday with a couple of big catches. I think he had a touchdown reception as well, so I expect those two to really duke it out as far as being the number one tight end goes. But it's a good problem to have, You got two young guys who are really competing to get that tight end spot, and either one of them can work out. Offensive line, obviously, that in my opinion, that's the biggest problem with this offense is the offensive line, more specifically the left side. Dan Moore, absolute garbage. Nothing else to say. Chooks has been very up and down this year with no in between. And I think that maybe one of them are going to be replaced by the draft. Fingers crossed that it's Dan Moore. But there really isn't much of a chance for a massive free agency upgrade as far as the offensive line goes. So I expect the O-line to look relatively the same next year. But again, that goes back to what I said about our wide receivers. If Jordan Addison is still available at 17, take him and then use number 32 on either a left tackle or a left guard. But that's as far as the offensive line goes. Overall, this offense has a lot of good young pieces, has a lot of potential on the horizon, but just because that you showed some promise towards the end of 2022-23, that doesn't mean that you can just remain stagnant. And that's something that Mike Tomlin is notorious for doing, So, got to make some changes, and you got to bring in some free agents as much as you can. You got to make some heavy decisions this offseason. You got to draft well in order for this O-line and in order for this offense to really improve for 2023, and that starts with getting a new offensive coordinator. On the defensive side of things, as far as the defensive line goes, Cam Hayward, let's just face it, he ain't getting any younger. But he's still playing at a very high level. He serves as a very good leader and role model for a lot of our younger players on this team. And honestly, I think he deserves an extension. He really stepped up when his name was called. He has had breakout year after breakout year every year since 2017. And I think that he will finish up his career in the black and gold. So I think it would be wise to extend him. Shouldn't be very exorbitant, shouldn't be very expensive. I think it's worth a shot. Not going to be particularly surprised if we go defensive tackle in the draft as well, because it is nice to have a little bit more cement, but another guy who I'm going to get to later deserves an extension as well. But don't also be surprised if we go free agency with defensive tackle as well. Wormley, I think he might be on his way out here as well. Tyson Alao, I know that he's a free agent as well, but it may not be too crazy of an idea to bring in another defensive tackle. So overall, this defensive tackle spot looks pretty solid, but there are going to be some changes to it in 2023. Linebackers is where it gets interesting, more specifically with the interior. It doesn't need to say anything further other than TJ Watt. There isn't a question of a doubt that he's the best player on this team. And a very hot take that I have with TJ Watt is that somewhere down the line, maybe not this year, but next year, 2023, he has to be in the talks of MVP. This team was 1-6 without TJ Watt this season. 8-1 with him. That just shows you how valuable this team is with TJ Watt, or how valuable TJ Watt is to this team. Our points per game that we allow is down below when TJ Watt's in the equation. It skyrockets when he doesn't play. We get a lot more pressure in when TJ Watt is in. We don't get pressure when TJ Watt isn't in. That should say all you need to know about the defense as far as TJ Watt goes. When his presence is on the field, this defense looks significantly different. Okay? I still think the defense is a tad overrated, but you plug TJ Watt in the equation, there's no denying this defense has all the potential to be a top 10 unit in the league. Other linebackers, Alex Highsmith, phenomenal year for him. Playing way better than we all anticipated. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're really going to be able to keep him. It would be a miracle if we do. Seeing that he's coming off of seeing that he was an undrafted free agent. I would love to keep him, but it's going to be a mere miracle if we do. Maybe a franchise tag if he continues to improve, but we'll see there. As far as guys like Malik Reed and Jameer Jones go, they're okay when they've been given a chance, but neither appears to be a long-term solution for us. Then I want to get into the interior. Devin Bush, I think, is definitely on his way out. The guy had so much potential to be one of the best players on this defense, and it showed for a little bit. In his rookie year in 2019, he really came on the scene, and the first half of 2020 really came on the scene. Then that ACL messed him up. Came back last year, and it's just been nothing but a disappointment for him. So, I hate to say it, because I really do think that when Devin Bush really gives his 100% best effort, he is a really good player, but half-assing, your abilities, that's not what's needed over here. So I think Devin Bush is on his way out. Miles Jack was a real nice surprise, and I really think that he should stay here as well. Robert Spillane, obviously another undrafted free agent, but it would not shock me as well if he returns next year. And I think that aside from offensive line and aside from corners, this is the most important position on this team that needs to be addressed in the offseason. Getting to the secondary with corners, the Steelers have been investing heavily in this position, but they haven't been able to find that true number one corner to lock down the position. We thought we had it with Akella Witherspoon, but he's been a massive disappointment this year, getting cooked left and right just like Artie Burns did back in the day. Then you got Levi Wallace and Cam Sutton. They would both be good at a number 2 spot, but neither of them are good enough to be a number 1 in my opinion. Sutton is expected to become an undrafted free agent, so I really don't expect him to be back. The trade for William Jackson III back, a month and a half ago, it's really brought nothing to this team this year, but we didn't trade him for 2022, so that way he's going to be brought up, and hopefully that we have a number one corner for 2023, so I expect William Jackson to stay here. As far as that, I don't think we're really going to bring in a big name free agent like a lot of people want, because it would not be shocked if we have one of those two guys step up and be a number one corner. But definitely corner is something that we need to focus on. It's not coming down to just, marinating and just patching up, obvious holes. We need to go in, either find one in the draft or let another guy take some more chances. But corner is definitely something that we need to work on. As far as safeties go, Minkah Fitzpatrick, enough said. Team MVP. I had a terrible take on him last week. I said he's been ghost, but the guy's come through. He won team MVP. Enough said. Great first year with that extension. DeMonte KZ is set for undrafted free agent, but he could return next year, so we'll see about that. I think he's a really good compliment to Minkah. As far as the strong safeties go, you got Edmonds and Killebrew. Neither one has done enough to be worthy of a big contract. I expect Edmonds to walk, and I expect Killebrew to be brought back just because of their contract situation. That will probably bring in a mid-level strong safety, but with Minkah being the highest paid safety in the league, I don't expect a whole lot of money to go to that position. So as far as safeties go, I think it's going to remain relatively the same. And then we got special teams with Chris Boswell. Enough said. He is the kicker of this franchise. And even though his 2022 numbers aren't acceptable, I expect him to stay. And, he's definitely going to have a chance to redeem himself. He had a couple of injuries here and there, but with him being 100% healthy for 2023, I expect him to do much better. We're going to bring in some competition. I anticipate it, but Boswell's here to stay. Presley Harvin is just very mid. Nothing great, but nothing terrible either. I guess I expected a little bit more out of him because we took him at the 7th. We took him in the late draft a couple years ago, but I can't say I'm disappointed with him. And then you got coaching. Tomlin's going to stay here. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. He is the coach of this franchise. But the Steelers are going to have to take a hard look at themselves in the mirror this offseason, make some heavy decisions with coaching, and I think that starts with Matt Canada. This guy needs to be gone, plain and simple. The last month he has done a decent enough job, but the first part of the season I just doesn't think justify it. I've heard that him and Kenny Pickett have been getting along, and if Kenny Pickett does like him that much, I expect him to stay. But as far as needing what's best for this team, Matt Canada needs to go. I really don't want to lose Brian Flores as well, because I really think that he can be a really good complement and he could really be beneficial for Mike Tomlin. And I think that he is a really good defensive-minded coach, and any other team with a head coach vacancy would be insane not to hire him. But I don't know. Seeing how these linebackers have been performing this year, I'm going to give Flores one more chance, and if I see more of the same for next year, I'm going to start to say that he needs to be gone. So that'll about do it for the offseason, what this team needs to do and what I think will happen. Now I'm going to get to 5 Steelers who need to stay and 5 Steelers who need to go. I'm going to start with the 5 who need to go because this took me this didn't really take me a whole lot of time to think of. So 5 Steelers who I think need to go. Number 1 is pretty obvious, Matt Canada. So Matt Canada, obviously, this offense has been very lackluster with him. He finished up his second year as offensive coordinator, and his play calling is just very bland and vanilla, to put it lightly. However, like I said a little bit ago, if Kenny Pickett is really developing a good relationship with him, then I do expect Matt Canada to stay. But looking at it from a standpoint to where this team really needs to improve and this offense isn't changing, I think Matt Canada needs to be on his way out. So there's that. Number 2, Devin Bush. Devin Bush, I think he's on his way out as well. His play style has proved it for the past couple years now with us. And I just really don't think that he's worth an extension. He finished up his final year of his rookie contract. I don't think that he's earned his way to getting a 5th year. And that was pretty obvious. That was pretty evident before the season began because we denied him a 5th year. It was a prove-it year for Devin Bush, and I don't think he did enough to earn a 5th year. So Devin Bush, I think, needs to go. Number 3, this may sound a little controversial to some people, but number 3, Cam Sutton. Like I said when I was talking about the corners, we haven't really found that number 1 corner. And while Cam Sutton has come up with a couple of big plays here and there, I really don't think that he's great, and I really don't think that he's earned his way to battling it out for that number 1 corner spot, and he's set to be an undrafted free agent, so I really don't expect Cam Sutton to be back. So I know that he has come up with a couple of big plays here and there, but that's not to the extent to where it's going to help out this defense. So Cam Sutton, I think he needs to go as well. Number 4, Tyson Alualu. First of all, he's getting up there in age, so that's always a big factor right there. And his productivity and his importance to the team has diminished ever since his, ever since his injury last year. And if we're going to take this rebuild seriously, and if we're going to continue to make strides to get better and to become a competitive force again, I don't really see Tyson Alualu being part of this team long term. So I think Tyson Alualu needs to go as well. And my last Steeler that I think needs to go is Malik Reed. Malik Reed came in when TJ Watt was injured, and he played a lot of his reps when he was injured, and he really didn't do a whole lot to contribute. Kind of just brought in as a rental, if you will. So I don't think that's really a major factor for the Pittsburgh Steelers here, but I really don't foresee Malik Reed being on this team long term, so I think that he should be on his way out in the offseason. Now for 5 Steelers who I think need to stay. Number 1 is Larry Ogunjobi. Larry Ogunjobi we brought in before the season began, and he's done a magnificent job with stopping the run. He is proven to be a really good role model, again, alongside with Cam Hayward for a lot of the younger players. He just has that atmosphere and that charisma that this defensive line is looking for, and I think that he played well enough to earn an extension. So Larry Ogunjobi, I expect him to stay, or at least I think he should stay. Second Steeler who I think should stay is Robert Spillane. Now, Robert Spillane is that type of linebacker to where he's really only good at goal line situations and short yardage plays, but you can tell that when he's platooned in there with the inside linebacker ability, that his presence is felt and that he does make a difference on the field when his number is called. He's not a great player for us, but he is a contributing force as to why these linebackers are able to stop the run and they're able to stop the 4th down and 3rd down efficiency. So I really do think that Robert Spillane should stay. My third Steeler who should stay is Miles Jack. Again, Miles Jack, he turned in a solid season. He turned in a respectable season. Nothing great, but it was a respectable season. I definitely think that he has played well enough to earn an extension, and I think that he has played well enough to earn second chance with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I think Miles Jack should stay. Number 4, again, this one may be a little bit head-scratching, but number 4 I think should be William Jackson III. William Jackson III was brought in from the trade that we had with Washington about a month and a half ago, but he never really had a chance to prove himself. This is going to be his first full season with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think with him having 1 full year under his belt with this team, I think that he should be given a fair chance to prove himself. So I would honestly keep William Jackson III. Not because that we need someone in the secondary, and not because that he's going to be healthy this year. It's because he never really had a chance to prove himself. So I would honestly bring back William Jackson III. And my fifth Steeler that I think should stay is DeMonte Kazee. DeMonte Kazee, again, a really good depth piece for this secondary. He's come up with some timely turnovers. He's come up with some timely big plays. And I think that it's justified him to stay another year for us. So DeMonte Kazee, I would keep him here. And that'll do it. Those are 5 Steelers who I think should stay and 5 Steelers who I think should leave. Those are my offseason predictions as well. And notice how I did not say for 5 Steelers who I think should go. Notice how I did not say Deontay Johnson or Dan Moore. Dan Moore for obvious reasons, because he's just so bad that it shouldn't even have to be mentioned that he needs to go. So that's the deal with him. And I said Deontay, and I didn't include Deontay Johnson because Deontay Johnson's contract we're stuck in, and there's really not much that we can do with it. As much as a disappointing year that we had, it wasn't so bad for me to say that Deontay Johnson needs to go, but I don't agree with us bringing him back. I'm neutral with him. Maybe if he turns in another solid season, I'll say that. But Deontay Johnson, the main reason I didn't is because we can't really get rid of him. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. This is my off-season thoughts, my off-season preview, and who I think should stay and need to go for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that'll conclude my Victory Monday. Next time I'll be on here talking about the Steelers is if a major update happens. Let me know what you think. This is Steel Sermon checking on out for the day. May God be with you all.